Okay, so the aim of the game of this video is not to cry. Hey. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you a bit of an emotional story of how I lost £2,000 in a London housing scam. Yeah, it's going to be a bit of an emotional one. Okay, so one of the main things you need to know about this story is basically that I don't have a lot of money. I wouldn't say broke. I am now. But I don't come from a very wealthy background. I work very hard for the money that I do earn, and I was definitely not prepared for what happened to me. And what annoys me the most is that I am so careful. I am so careful. I need to take you back to how I sort of ended up in this situation. But I used to work up north, specifically in the northwest. Yeah, shout out. So I'm from a little town up north, and I've somewhere between Preston, Manchester and Liverpool. So I was working around there. I actually used to commute to work for an hour and a half every single day to get to my job because I liked it that much. Unfortunately for me, the company that I was working with decided that they were going to move offices to somewhere further away, which made me very upset, because I wasn't going to commute a further another 30 minutes when I was already doing an hour and a half commute. 2 hours a day going there and then 2 hours a day going home is just unbearable. Like an hour and a half there and speedily going home at midnight was just too much for me. To make matters worse, I also paid my Trek America trip completely in full at that time. So I was really looking forward to this holiday. It was 6 months away and suddenly I had no income coming in for another couple of months. So I was freaking out. Luckily for me, I found a job in London and it was perfect for me. Perfect, absolutely perfect. Which was my colleagues didn't find, which they found very weird because I wouldn't move to an extra half an hour away, but I would move to London. The thing is, the career aspect of me moving to London gained a lot more from me having to commute 2 hours every day for the same job that I wasn't really benefiting a lot from anymore. So moving to London was basically the best decision I ever made career-wise. So that's why I did it, and I don't regret it at all, even though it's the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. So basically, that's when I also started weekly vlogging as well. So from January 2016, I started weekly vlogging, and you can see all my freaking out on my channel somewhere. So me and my dad packed up all my stuff, and well, I packed up all my stuff. My dad drove me down here.
It's an adventure. We're going.
Oh God. Bye. Me and my dad drove all the way down from the northwest to London for my new job. Luckily for me, one of the girls that worked in the same sort of office as me had a spare room, which I completely appreciate. She had this little spare room in her house. I'd never met her before, and she let me stay there for a whole month before, so while I had a look for other apartments like that I could stay in full time. So for the first month of me living in London, I was living in a little house in Tooting in this very small room, but I completely appreciate it, while I looked for a house in London, and it was the worst experience of my life. Looking for housing in London is like, it's horrific. Like anyone who's tried to look for a house in London will tell you that it's like the worst experience ever. For example, you can see on my weekly vlogs as well, I went into a house that had 14 mouse traps on the floor, and they thought that was totally acceptable. Not for me. You'll find that housing in London is very expensive as well, so trying to find something within budget that was still appropriate was very difficult as well. The first time I was looking for housing in London, it was just horrendous. But I eventually found a house in southwest London, with 2 other housemates, and one of them was the live-in landlord. I will never be in a house with a live-in landlord ever again. It's the worst experience I've ever had in my life. Like, to be fair, I picked that house because it was very, very clean, it was affordable, and it was within walking distance of my job. So it was perfect in that sort of respect. And one of the girls I actually met who showed me around, I didn't meet the live-in landlord when I was looking around, she was, which was probably my first mistake, she was amazing. I absolutely love Annie. Annie, I miss you if you're watching this. I lived 6 months in that house, and then I started looking for other places to live, which is where I ran into my new problems. So I was looking for places to live. I'd already done it the first time round. I knew how difficult it was, and I knew who to go through. I looked through houses through this agent that I was looking through previously. I was looking on Spare Room, Zoopla, Rightmove, everywhere, and I eventually came across an advert on Spare Room for an apartment in southwest London, which was walking distance from my work again. So I thought it was perfect. I arranged a meeting through Spare Room to see the house, and I went and met them. I met the key guy in person when I went to the appointment. So he let me in. I had a little look around the house. It was perfect. I picked the biggest room. It was completely affordable. It had a kitchen, a massive kitchen. It didn't have a living room, and it had a garden, but it was only accessed through one of the rooms, which I didn't want, and it had two massive bathrooms. It was perfect, absolutely perfect. It was for 5 people. It was great. It was absolutely perfect. It was completely what I was looking for. So I took an application form, and I had a little think about it overnight because I don't really want to make any quick rash decisions. By that point I'd had a look at maybe 6 or 7 other houses, but this one, you know, when you have that feeling like this is the one. I sent them an email the next day, and they told me that the room had gone and all the other rooms had been sold out, which I should have left it there and then. But I told some of the people from work and some of my friends, and they were like, just message them and say that if there's a waiting list you'd like to be put down. So I did. I rang them up, and I spoke to a woman on the phone, and she said that she'll see what she can do. And then she decided there and then over the phone, after 10 minutes of me talking to her or something, that she was like, you know what, I'm going to bump off one of these guys because he seems to be messing me about. If you pay me a deposit tomorrow, and send me your application form, then I'll give you the room. So I did. I filled in the application form, I sent it across, I sent a deposit, which was 6 weeks rent. A deposit. I sent them a deposit, which was 6 weeks rent. I sent my first month's deposit, and I sent them So while I was on the phone with her, I made an arrangement. I didn't have the full amount to give her there and then. So I arranged to make my first month's rent a couple of weeks beforehand, but I did give her, I sent the company 6 weeks rent, which was my deposit, and an admin fee, which added up to about £1,200. I sent them that, and then she was like, congratulations, you got the room. I was so happy. I gave my notice in to my landlord. I'm like, I'm moving out. I didn't give him the finger or anything, but I left it on good terms. That is the best advice I've ever been given, is not to burn your bridges, which we'll talk about later. I gave in my notice. He started advertising my room straight away, which was really annoying because then people are coming to look at your room when you're still living there. But yeah, a couple of weeks before I was supposed to be moving in, they messaged me like, just to remind you that your deposit is due, that you're due to us per our agreement. We need your first week's rent, your first month's rent. And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I sent them that money as well. So in total, I sent them just under £2,000. And then the week before I was supposed to be moving in, I emailed them and I was basically just asking, when can I grab the key, what time should I show up on this day, and I didn't hear back from them, which then made me very concerned. A couple of days, I then rang them and emailed them every single day that week. So I sent them and rang them an email every day that week, so 14 sorts of communication. 2 days before I was supposed to be moving in, they emailed me back finally saying, we're really sorry, there's been a bit of miscommunication and misunderstanding, there is someone still living in that room. I then emailed them back saying, well, that's your problem, not mine, really. So they said they were on a short lease or something, that they'd let them stay there before I was going to move in, but they got the dates mixed up. Can I be flexible on the date? And I was like, no, because I'm moving out, you're going to leave me with nowhere to live. And then basically I was like, they were like, well, we can't do that, they're going to be living there for another week, and it escalated that much. So it then got to a point where they were basically like, well, I was going to be having nowhere to live, and they didn't really care. I then got very upset, obviously, because then I was going to be left homeless, and they were basically saying that I couldn't move in. And I rang the police, rightly, I rang the police, but I didn't ring 999, I rang 111, 101 I think it is, and I spoke to a lovely girl on the phone who then told me that, she was like, I'm not supposed to be telling you this, but we've had complaints about this property already. Alarm bells. She said that they've had reports of theft at that property already, which then made me realise something's going on here. Maybe they've had someone's broken into the property, didn't make me feel very safe. That was the first thing that I thought, and safety is my main thing. Like, I want to feel safe in my home, like I don't want people breaking in. So I was like, I emailed I was like, thank you very much, I'm going to get back to them now. And she said, you need to make sure that they give you your money back. You need to not move into that place, and you need to get a refund. I was like, thank you so much. Like, this is the police telling me this. I was like, right, okay. So I rang the company, the agency. They didn't pick up the phone. I emailed them. I was like, right, I would like a refund. And they were like, no problem. However, our accounting agent is currently on holiday. It will take 10 days. Okay. I then emailed them back going, okay, no problem. People go on holiday all the time. And by this point, I'd spoken to maybe 4 people at the agency. And I was like, no problem at all. As soon as they get back, I would like a refund. I set a date on my calendar, and I was like, right, as soon as they get back, they're going to process that, and then it will be there. 10 days later, I went to ring the company. Their phone line had been disconnected. I sent them an email and it bounced back. I had a look at their website and their website had been closed down. Basically, it was a massive scam, and they'd run off with my money. By that point, I'd spoken to 4 people at that agency. I'd seen one of them in person. I had viewed the property. I couldn't have been more careful. I'd signed paperwork in their name, but still they had scammed me over somehow. And I'm such a careful person, and it still kills me to this day that these people have managed to do that to me. I rang the police. Didn't get the same girl, obviously, but they didn't care. I was told to call Action Fraud. I filled out loads of forms for them. I still haven't heard back from them. And I spoke to PRS and filled out loads of paperwork with them. They said 6 months down the line after that, they said they still hadn't been able to contact them, and that was the end of their investigation. I was like, well, they've done a runner, all their communications gone. So, and then after my last phone call with them, I was like, so what do we do from here? And he was like, well, what did you expect to happen? Thanks, PRS. That's exactly what you want to hear when you've lost £2,000. I also went to the bank as well. And the bank told me I should have come in sooner. That's not what you want to hear from the bank, because I was basically going down all these other revenue streams, and I completely forgot about going to the bank, because basically the bank can physically pick up that money out of that bank account if you can prove to them it's fraud, which the police did, and pick that money up from that bank account and then put it back into your bank account. I never knew this was a thing, so if you ever have a thing with fraud, then you can do that. So I went to the bank, and they said they located the bank account. It was a company bank account that they set up, like a business bank account. However, they'd closed that bank and transferred all the money to a personal account in Halifax in London, or something like that, in the middle of London. So basically they'd removed all that money from the business account and put it into their personal account, and they'd run off. And because it was two different banks, they couldn't talk to each other to get that money back. So if it was a branch that would under an umbrella of the same company, then they could have picked that up, spoken to them, going, hey mate, this person's had a main with fraud, no problem, and then moved it back into mine. And I also went to the property and I spoke to the current tenants. So people had moved in by that point, and I knocked on the door and I was like, hi, this is gonna sound really weird, and he was like, did you make a deposit? And I was like, yeah. And he went, come on in. And he was so nice. I sat down and had a tea with him, and he was like, basically everyone in the property had made a deposit with these people, first month's rent, admin fee, everything, and they didn't basically pass that money on to the landlord. So they paid the company didn't pay the landlord, and now the landlord had 4 tenants living in that house for a whole month, and he hadn't received any of their money. So basically what they were doing was using their deposit as first month's rent and second month's rent, so they wouldn't be out of pocket themselves, which is clever on them. But obviously the landlord had then people living in that house, and he still wasn't getting any money for any of the bills or any of the mortgage or anything. So the landlord and the tenants had also been done over on that point. But what concerned me was that that guy said I wasn't the first person to turn up at that house. They had maybe a dozen other people come to that property as well as me. So the agency had taken maybe 20 people's deposits, admin fees and first month's rent and run off. So it wasn't just me, it was loads of other people, which doesn't make it any better, but they were very clever. But I'm just so gutted about the whole situation, because the whole thing after that was that I had to then find somewhere else to live. I had 2 days left on my tenancy, and I had nowhere to live. But unfortunately, because it was 2 different banks of 2 different companies, they couldn't do that, so they couldn't get involved at all. So it was up to the police and Action Fraud and PRS to try and help me out, and I still haven't heard from them, and I still don't have my money back. And I never will. So after all that situation, I obviously needed somewhere to live, so I had to beg my landlord. This is why I was talking about don't burn bridges. I had to talk to my landlord and ask him if I could stay. And I told him exactly what had happened. And you know what? The nicest thing he ever did was let me stay. But to be fair, he couldn't find anyone else to live in my room because he's such a nightmare. But to be fair, it's the nicest thing he ever did, like for me, was in that house the whole time, the whole year I had to stay there, was let me stay after my whole scenario. But yeah, he let me stay there again, and he was like, how long do you reckon you're going to be staying for? And I was like, after that, I don't want to move out again for a while, to be perfectly honest. So I basically just left it open, but I basically just stayed for another 6 months so I could save up for another deposit. And now I live here. So I stayed for another 6 months, gained another deposit. So I basically had no social life for the first year I was there, because I was saving up for one deposit for the house that took all my money, and then for the second deposit so I could move out of the crazy house, I moved here. So everything's fine now. I'm still £2 down, but I now live in this really lovely house, this really lovely apartment, and honestly I feel so much better. It has so much security on it. My room is massive. I don't live in a little shoebox anymore. So the first 2 houses I lived in were really tiny rooms. I have a massive room. We have a living room so I can speak to the other tenants, the other girls that live in this house. Girls, never living with a guy again until I get married. The girls I live with are absolutely lovely. I couldn't ask for better housemates, honestly. I feel so lucky to have found this apartment and this house, and I'm just so happy right now. This is the best place I've ever been in. I've lived in a lot of houses, and this is, honestly, I feel so at home now in London, like, because of this house. I can get all emotional again now. And despite all the hard times I've been through in London, like, London is now like my home. I couldn't imagine living back up north again, as much as I miss all my friends and my family and all the rubbish I went through with this house. Like, I absolutely love London, and this is the best place for me right now, definitely. I hope this video was useful. I hope this kind of gives you an insight of why I've had so many ups and downs the past year on my channel as well. Like, I have really bad anxiety, and that really took me to a really bad place when I lost all that money. Like, I was a mess. So I really appreciate everyone who helped me out through that time. Like, work gave me some money for a deposit, which I am paying back. So they helped me out as well. My manager also gave me loads of tips and like helped me out, and was like helping me try to see how I could get this money back, like talking to estate agents and stuff like that, and like his estate agent that was helping him looking for a house. So I really appreciate my manager helping me as well. Like, people at work who were offering me places to live. I've never cried on my channel before. Oh, I failed. I said I wasn't gonna cry. I really appreciate everyone who offered me a place to live when I thought I was going to be homeless. But yeah, I really hope this helps. I really, honestly, if I could give anyone any advice who's looking for a house in London, it's just to be really careful. Like, people who are advertising their homes, don't live with a live-in landlord is my advice, but there are some decent live-in landlords out there, some really nice ones, like young professionals that are looking for someone to help them with their mortgage, basically. Even that's what mine was doing, but I just didn't really. Another tip is to really talk to the people that you're going to be potentially living with, because they are going to make your experience in your house. Like, if you don't get on with them, then don't live there. I've turned down a numerous of houses that were really lovely, but I just didn't like the tenants, and I don't want that to sound horrible, but I want to be able to live somewhere where I know I'm going to get on with people, and because that is the main thing for me. And look for rats, look for rat traps. I'm never good at it. And honestly, looking for a house in London or anywhere is just horrendous. So honestly, you're going to look for a lot of houses, but the more houses you look at, the more experience you're going to get, and the more it's going to be completely draining, and it's going to be after work, and you're going to be your evenings and your weekends completely taken out. Lunch breaks I was looking at before work, I was looking all the time. But you will find somewhere, and honestly, I've never been happier, and yeah, I'm so glad it's all done and over with. But I will never find that money. I will never see that money again. Whoever sorted that out, whoever took all my money, is probably in sunny Mexico right now. Yeah, I might be £2 down, but I've gained a lot from this experience, as cheesy as that sounds. But I really hope this helps if you are experiencing fraud right now, or if you are looking for a house in London, and I really do hope that this helps you. Okay guys, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up if you think that guy is an absolute prick. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next video. Hopefully it'll be a lot more funnier and a lot more uplifting and positive. Thanks guys, bye!